Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Peace talks and politics. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel, everybody. Hello, Maverick family. Zelensky meets with Trump, or maybe we should say Trump meets with Zelensky. They meet each other. Yesterday, Zelensky met with Mark Carney, promised more money, and around and around and around and around in circles we go as Trump also speaks with Putin on the telephone. We will bring it all to you. So stay with me. It is December 28th, 2025.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
I must say the tone somehow seems different. Everything feels a little bit different this weekend as Zelensky and Trump meet. They held a news conference following their meeting this afternoon. It was held just a short time ago. We have it for you here. And I have to say, I mean, the tone feels positive, but what they're saying doesn't seem to be really any different. I'm not sure what to make of that. Trump also spoke with Putin on the phone today. And there are varying accounts on how long that call lasted, with Trump saying it lasted 2 to 2.5 hours. But when I look over at Russia's mainstream media, they're saying it was like an hour to maybe an hour and 15. So that's a big discrepancy in the amount of time. And I'm seeing different posts online with a range of reaction. The most positive reactions that seem to be coming from Western media. The media over in Russia, the jury's still out on that, because I think there's still a lot of stuff being written even as we speak, because this is so fresh. So I'm not sure where they are going to end up on this. Usually, if you look at the media on both sides, after these discussions, negotiations, peace talks, whatever you want to call them, if you look at both sides, you can usually get a pretty good indication of whether these talks are serious, whether it will potentially result in anything substantial. And you can really kind of gauge where Russia is or Ukraine is based on their media. We'll take a look at the headlines on both sides. But first, let's go to the news conference. Well, this was held at Mar-a-Lago, and let's roll it.
Spoke to the European leaders. They were President Emmanuel Macron of France, President Alexander Stubb of the Republic of Finland, President Karol Nawrocki of the Republic of Poland, Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store of the Kingdom of Norway, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of the Italian Republic, Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom of Britain and Northern Ireland, Chancellor Friedrich Merz, the Federal Republic of Germany, Secretary General Mark Rutte, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, President Ursula von der Leyen of the European Commission. We spoke to all of those great leaders. They're all great leaders. And we had a great talk with them after we were completed. We thought it was appropriate to speak with them. And our meeting was excellent. We covered, somebody would say 95%. I don't know what percent, but we have made a lot of progress on ending that war, which is really certainly the most deadly war since World War II, probably the biggest war since World War II. And I want to thank Steve Witkoff, who's here, and I'd like to thank Jared, who's here someplace. Thank you, Jared. And thank you, Steve. What a great job you've done. Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, and Marco Rubio is here. Thank you, Marco. And Pete Hegseth is here. Those two people are doing an unbelievable job. And the four people on this one are doing, I don't think anybody could do it. And we'll see if it gets done, but it's very close, certainly. Nobody would even have a chance of getting it to where it is right now. Nobody would have thought that was possible. So I just want to say we've done very well. We've had discussions on just about every subject, and that includes with President Putin before. And we went into great detail, and we likewise went into great detail today. And it was an honor to have you at Mar-a-Lago and have lunch. I hope you enjoyed the food. Your people enjoyed the food, I can tell you that. You're big, strong people. Your general over there looks like central casting. I want to also, by the way, speaking of generals, we have a great general, General Raisin Kane, who is here someplace. Thank you, General. Thank you very much. He's great. So, Mr. President, maybe you want to say a few words, and then we'll speak over the next couple of weeks. We'll speak probably quite a bit, but we'll speak tomorrow. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything. Dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to thank President Trump for a great meeting at this amazing place in his home in Mar-a-Lago. And we had a really great discussions on all the topics, and we appreciate the progress that was made by American and Ukrainian teams in these recent weeks. Special thanks to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and thank you to for their engagement and full commitment, and also to our team, and first of all to Rustem Umerov and General Gnatov, and to all our teams. And we discussed all the aspects of the peace framework, which includes, and we have a great achievements, 20-point peace plan, 90% agreed, and U.S.-Ukraine security guarantees, 100% agreed. U.S.-Europe, Ukraine security guarantees, almost agreed. Military dimension, 100% agreed. Prosperity plan being finalized, and we also discussed the sequencing of the following actions. And we agree that security guarantees is the key milestone in achieving lasting peace, and our teams will continue working on all aspects. We also had a joint productive call with European leaders, like President Trump said already, and a lot of leaders, including NATO and EU. And we agreed that our teams will meet in upcoming weeks to finalize all discussed matters, and we agreed with President Trump that he will host us, and maybe in Washington, European leaders and Ukrainian delegation, yes, in January. And Ukraine is ready for peace. And once again, would like to thank President Trump for a warm welcome and substantial discussion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Any questions, please?
The first time they just from President Zelensky, 90%, 100%. The U.S.-Ukraine security guarantees. What number are we at right now?
Well, I think look, you can say 95%, but I don't like to say percentages. I just think we're doing very well. We could be very close. There are one or two very thorny issues, very tough issues, but I think we're doing very well. We made a lot of progress today, but really we've made it over the last month. this is not a one-day process deal. This is very complicated stuff. But I think when the president says 95, I think, could be close to 95%. Yeah, please, behind you.
Mr. President, have you agreed on the so-called free trade zone on Donbass? How to separate the sites? How to make the separation line? Who will be responsible?
The word agreed is too strong. I would say not agreed, but we're getting closer to an agreement on that, and that's a big issue. Certainly, that's one of the big issues, and I think we're closer than we were. Probably it's unresolved, but it's getting a lot closer. That's a very tough issue, but one that I think will get resolved. Yeah, please.
We are receiving some mixed signals coming from Moscow, even after this talk. Can you assure us that you have received written or any formal response from them?
Well, what was the issue? You have to tell me. What did they say?
They are telling that Ukraine has to give up Donbass. Just very recent statement.
Well, that's what they've been asking for, and there's a dispute about that. So they're going to have to iron that out. That's an issue they have to iron out. But I think it's moving in the right direction.
Ukraine will prepare for delaying the solution of peace agreement you achieve.
If something doesn't happen, you mean if something doesn't happen? Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. You were going to finish your question. Well, we'll see. Look, we'll see. But I don't want to talk about that because I think we're getting pretty close. Yes, please.
May I ask the President of Ukraine?
Please.
Yes, about territorial question. Mr. President, what is your take on Donbass status? Are you prepared to see it as a free economic or demilitarized zone?
No, we spoke about 20 points plan, and I'm happy that really our teams very close to results, and I agree with President Trump that our teams work not one day and not one week, more than 1 month, beginning from Geneva, then 2 meetings in Miami, then we had Berlin, and now we have Mar-a-Lago. So this is a very difficult question. You know our position, so it's we have to respect our law and our people, and we respect the territory which we control. And of course, our attitude is very clear. That's why President Trump said this is a very tough question, and of course we have with Russians different positions on it.
And have you discussed referendum about?
No, when we speak about referendum, we spoke that it's one of the key. We can have referendum on any kind of points of this plan. I said that we can use referendum like for the plan, or we cannot use referendum. It's one of the key. We can use, this possibility of Parliament to vote according to the law or to have referendum. Doesn't matter. This referendum, if the plan will be very difficult for our society, very difficult, of course our society has to choose and has to vote because it's their land, the land not of one person, it's the land of our nation for a lot of generations.
They'll probably have to get their plan approved by Parliament or by referendum of the people. You would think that I know they had a poll that it's 91% in favor of ending this war, so they want to end it like everybody wants. Russia wants it ended, everybody wants it ended, and we want it ended. I want it ended because I don't want to see so many people dying. We're losing massive numbers of people, the biggest by far since World War II. So we want to see it ended, absolutely.
President
Yes.
Trump, you said at the top that you plan to speak again tomorrow. Is that correct?
I might. It depends on what happens tomorrow. If there's an additional something to add, otherwise there's no reason to. We're in the process. Jared and Steve are working very hard to get something done, and if there's something that comes up, I'd speak, but otherwise I don't think there's any reason to.
In your mind, sir, what are the thorniest issues still unresolved after the?
Well, I think the land you're talking about, some of that land has been taken. Some of that land is maybe up for grabs, but it may be taken over the next period of a number of months. And you're better off making a deal now. Look, let me tell you, they have been very brave. They fought very hard and continue to fight very hard and do tremendous damage. But Russia would like to see it end, and Ukraine would like to see it. And I think it's time to end. And a lot of very brave people, a lot of people that are dead right now, unfortunately, because I've said, and nobody's disputed it, that if the election weren't rigged and stolen, 2020, you wouldn't have had this war. It would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. Never was even thought to happen. And I spoke with President Putin, I got along with him very well, despite the Russia hoax, which was a total hoax. He used to say, what is going on over there? But it was a total hoax, as he knew and as I knew. But I spoke to him, and we'd talk about Ukraine. I've said it before. It was the apple of his eye, but he wasn't going to do anything about it. He didn't do anything about it until I was gone, and then a lot of really bad statements were made by people, by a lot of people, I guess, but by a certain president that we had who was a disaster. Yes?
Do you anticipate going to Ukraine if you can get to an agreement? And I know
I'd have
you
no
said
problem
earlier-
with doing it. You know, I have no problem with doing it. Don't anticipate it. Would like to get the deal done and not necessarily have to go. I've offered to go and speak to their parliament. And, you know, if that would help. I don't know if that would help. I think it would probably help. But I don't even know if that's...
You're welcome.
yeah, no, I know.
Always.
So I'm not sure that it would be really necessary. But if it would help save 25,000 lives a month or whatever it may be, I would certainly be willing to do that. Yeah, please. No, behind you. Where are you from?
From Ukraine.
Good, I had a feeling. Good.
How about Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant? Have you discussed this?
On what?
Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant.
Yeah, we discussed that at length today. As you know, it's in pretty good shape. It can start up immediately, almost immediately. And it's one of the things I discussed with President Putin. And they were talking about the nuclear plant. That's probably the biggest in the world, just about the biggest anywhere in the world. Can you believe that? And President Putin's actually working with Ukraine on getting it open. He's been very good in that sense. He wants to see that open. And he hasn't hit it with missiles, hasn't hit it with anything. It's a big danger to do that for everybody. But they're working together to try and get it. It can open very quickly. It's in pretty good shape. And the people there have been there for years. The people there running it. You know, they have 5,000 people in that plant. Can you believe it? I learned that today. 5,000 people. It's the biggest plant of its kind in the world. And they're working together to get it opened. They could maybe get it open quickly. That's a big step when he's not bombing that plant. It's a big step.
You, in the readout from Moscow, they talked about the creation of some working groups.
Yes.
That would be set. Can you tell us about what those working groups
Sure.
would entail? And also, if you wouldn't mind, what is the message that you will give to Putin when you speak to him after your meeting?
So the working group is going to be composed of Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, General Raisin Kane, Marco Rubio, and a few other people that we're going to be putting onto it. I think Pete Hegseth should be in that working group. He knows the territory very well. He's been fantastic at what he's doing. And they may add one or two people. And likewise, Ukraine's going to have some very good people that were at lunch today that enjoyed the lunch today a lot, more than they thought, right? But do you want to say who may be on your working group?
Yeah, we now, as I said, that we work with Steve and Jared. We worked our Rustem Umerov and also Deputy Minister Gislitz and also General Ignatov, and they will continue work in this group. And of course, if we will go further, and I hope that really we will have decisions in January, as I said, about all these documents, 6 documents, and of course, we will continue work on this, so they know what to do. Yes.
And that working group, by the way, importantly, will also then be working with Russia, okay? Because to work with ourselves doesn't really solve much of a problem. So they'll be working with Russia. Yeah, please.
This morning you weren't a deadline guy. How long do you think it'll take to get this last little bit, as you say, finished? What are we talking
So
about?
if it went really well, you know, maybe a few weeks. And if it went poorly, longer. And if it went really poorly, it's not going to happen. That would be a shame. There's that chance also. You know, it's possible it doesn't happen. But, you know, in a few weeks we will know one way or the other, I think. But if it went really well, but it could also go poorly. I mean, you know, we could have something where one item that you're not thinking about as a big item breaks it up. Look, it's been a very difficult negotiation, very detailed. It's funny, I settled 8 wars. Some were going on for 35 years. And we got them settled in a couple of days. Some of them One was going on for 37 years. I settled it in one day. But this is a very complex one.
What the bad
No, I think we'll get it done. I don't want to say when, but I think we're going to get it done. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, you in the past have suggested a trilateral meeting between both Presidents Putin and Zelensky. Is
Right.
that something that is also on the docket?
I see that happening, sure, at the right time. I saw a very interesting President Putin today. I mean, he wants to see it happen. He wants to see it. He told me very strongly. I believe him. Don't forget, we went through the Russia hoax together. And he'd call me, I'd call him, I'd say, can you believe the stuff that they're making up? And it turned out we were right. They made it all up. And despite that, we didn't get into wars and we didn't get into problems, but we weren't able to trade very much or any of that, which was a shame because, you know, a lot of success could have been had by trading with Russia. They have great land, great minerals and other things, and we have things that they want very badly. But the Russia hoax, which was a terrible made-up fictional thing by Crooked Hillary and by Adam Shifty Schiff and bad people, sick people. They made it up. It was all a made-up hoax. But it kept us really from dealing with Russia, kept Russia dealing, you know, from dealing with us. So, but despite that, we got along. And I don't know, I think we're going to get there. I know him very well. I think we're going to get there.
Discuss any time, location, meeting place?
Yeah, we're discussing a lot of things. No, look, I was on the phone with him for almost, I guess, 2.5 hours, they're just telling me now. That's a long time. We discussed a lot of things. We didn't talk about the weather. We weren't talking about what a beautiful day it is in Palm Beach, Florida. Yes.
Trump, President Zelensky mentioned maybe a meeting with European leaders back in Washington. Would that be in the next few weeks?
Well, in Washington or someplace, yeah. These leaders that I just read, these are great people. You know, they've spent a lot of money on helping Ukraine. And look, they're doing it for themselves also, meaning their country, because Ukraine's a very important country for them in particular. For us, it's very important. To me, it's the lives. You know, we're thousands and thousands of miles. We're protected by a thing called the Atlantic Ocean and lots of other places, to be honest. And they're not, you know, they're right there. But we're working together with them as we should be. But I'm doing it to save lives. You know, we're not spending any money. Biden gave $350 billion away. And the president was nice enough to give us a contract to take out rare earth and things. So we'll see how that all works out. We have a contract, but we appreciated that. He was very good. But we'll see how that works out. But if you think about it, we're going to have I really believe we're probably, Mr. President, by far closer than ever before with both parties. We had some times when he was close and President Putin wasn't. Then when President Putin was close and he wasn't. You saw that in the White House. But I think they both want to see it happen.
In your conversation with...
You've said multiple times that you want to stop the killing. And nearly 100 American citizens died in Ukraine over that.
Yeah.
What's your message to their families whose loved ones died fighting?
Well, look, I mean, the message is so obvious. It's what a shame. They died in a foreign country. And some are celebrated people. They're very celebrated. But so sad that a thing like that would happen. Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, security is a major issue for the Ukrainians.
Right.
Did you offer any promises, any assurances today?
Well, I did. We want to work with Europe, and Europe is going to take over a big part of it, as you can imagine. You know, they're right there. But we're going to help Europe 100%, like they'd help us. Yes, ma'am, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, when your conversation...
Who are you with?
Andrea Shalal with Reuters.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so in your conversation with President Putin, did you discuss what responsibility Russia will have for any kind of reconstruction of Ukraine post an agreement?
I did. They're going to be helping. Russia's going to be helping. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed. Once, it sounds a little strange, but I was explaining to the president, President Putin was very generous in his feeling toward Ukraine succeeding, including supplying energy, electricity, and other things at very low prices. So a lot of good things came out of that call today. But they were in the works for 2 weeks with Steve and with Jared and Marco and everybody.
Did Russia agree, or did Putin agree to a ceasefire to allow a referendum to take
Not a
place?
ceasefire, and that's one of the points that we're working on right now. No, not a ceasefire. He feels that, look, they're fighting and to stop, and then if they have to start again, which is a possibility, he doesn't want to be in that position. I understand that position. The president feels strongly about that or something, but I think we're finding ways that we can get around that. But I understand President Putin from that standpoint. You have to understand the other side. And, I'm on the side of peace. I'm on the side of stopping the war. So, but I think that's a problem that's going to get solved,
Would people who live outside of Ukrainians who fled during the war be allowed to participate in the referendum?
What do you mean, people where live?
The people that left.
refugees
So
who
the
fled
people,
to
we have,
Poland and Germany.
if we speak about the people who are abroad, who are not on the territory of Ukraine, you mean that in Poland, in Germany, we have millions of people. Yeah, they have a referendum in the same of elections. In the same way how people come and vote, they have rights for this, and of course they have to come. That's why if we will come to referendum, yes, if we will come to such decision, people need infrastructure for this, and it's not simple, and that's why we spoke about it. It can't be in one day, very quickly. It's difficult because we need infrastructure. When you have millions of people, you have to build it in Europe, mostly in Europe for today.
President Trump, I know you've sounded an optimistic note here, but what happens in a few weeks if things sputter? What are you prepared to do?
They keep fighting, and they keep dying. No good. But if things don't happen, they keep fighting, and they keep dying. And we don't want that to happen. He doesn't want it to happen. President Putin doesn't want it to happen either. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Great. Thank you.
Listen to this at the end.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know. Was it a good lunch? There's no lunch. He walked in. He said, "This place is gorgeous." I don't think he wants to go to the White House anymore. That's the problem.
I'm ready to go to White House.
I know we are. It is.
Always.
The White House is a very special place, and so is this. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
So much.
And that was right out of Central Casting. It's always about the show with Trump. Always about the show. And ratings. If it feels like a movie, it's because his entire administration is right out of Central Casting. So you take away from that whatever you will, but we keep seeing these peace talks followed by news conferences. We don't really know truly what happens in behind the scenes or what happens in the actual meetings. Did you hear anything new there? The only thing I heard that seemed new or to be making any kind of progress was Zelensky kind of going through the highlights of the 20-point plan and saying, oh, that's 90% approved. And like, yes, there's 90% on this and 90% on that, indicating that Ukraine is pretty much ready to accept this peace deal. The thing is, Putin's not there. Now, Trump did talk to Putin on the phone. I've seen mixed things on social media about that. Let's go over to RT and just take a look and see what's being said about all of this over in Russia tonight. Kremlin reveals details of Putin call. Okay, what are the details of Putin's call? Let's click and find out. Here we are. I think we need to open a new tab and let's reveal the details. There we go. Okay. So, U.S. President Donald Trump called his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin on Sunday to discuss a number of issues related to the Ukraine peace talks ahead of a meeting, blah, blah, blah. They held a friendly, well-wishing, and business-like conversation for an hour and 15 minutes, which is what I indicated was coming out of Russia. And what did Trump say? I think he said 2 to 2.5 hours. That's a little bit of a different perspective on it. But my buddy Vlad, he just wouldn't let me go. He just has the gift for gab. They kept on talking, during which they expressed mutual interest in reaching a lasting, peaceful settlement in the Ukraine conflict. Stressed the need to rely on the understandings reached between the presidents at the summit in Anchorage earlier this year. Yeah. You take that third of the world, I'll take my third, and I guess we just have to give up the other third to China. Both the Russian and U.S. leaders agreed that a temporary ceasefire, as proposed by Ukraine and its European leader backers, quote, would only prolong the conflict and risk a resumption of hostilities. Does that make any sense? So if you have a ceasefire, you can't have a ceasefire because if you have a ceasefire, it would only prolong the conflict. Well, I can understand an argument there because it might give both sides opportunity to rearm, refortify, build up, take a breather, come back stronger, fight even harder on both sides, and risk a resumption of hostilities. But isn't the whole point to just get them to stop fighting? So a ceasefire is out of the question because we might fight. That portion of the comment doesn't seem to make sense to me unless I'm missing something. It sounds like doublespeak to me. Putin agreed to a proposal from Trump to continue the settlement process by forming 2 working groups. We heard all that. Earlier this week, Zelensky also revealed his new 20-point peace proposal, which he claimed had been discussed with U.S. officials. Moscow dismissed it as a non-starter, calling it radically different from the plan discussed by Russia and the U.S. So right there, that tells me they're still miles apart. Unless something happened, like this is talking about the phone call with Putin, and they're still highlighting this, unless there was something that has not been revealed from that phone call, would indicate that it's now something they can talk about, because this whole thing is based on the 20-point peace proposal. And so, of course you made a lot of progress because this is what the U.S. and Ukraine has been talking about. But the U.S. really, as sort of a middle, well, Trump's the middleman. It's not about Ukraine and the U.S. really making the deal. You have to have Putin there, and he has to be a willing part of it. I don't see it here. I'm not saying I've seen posts also, and I don't know if they're accurate, but with clips of Putin saying that he's not interested in what happened today. But I think they might be old clips, recycled just to cause disruption, even undermine any efforts toward peace, which just indicates to me, too, that this thing is far from over. Yesterday, we didn't get to it. I wasn't too concerned about it when, we had this story of Mark Carney meeting with Zelensky in advance of today's meeting at Mar-a-Lago. The reason I wasn't too concerned about it is because what really matters at this point was really what came out of this. And yesterday's meeting was a prelude to today's meeting. And we were kind of preoccupied with a pretty interesting broadcast last night, which I think was very worthwhile with Gina. If you haven't seen that, you might go back, but you have to watch the whole thing to really get the full context. Back to today's story, though, which circles back to yesterday's story that I'm just referring to here, when Mark Carney met with Zelensky in Halifax. Because, hey, if you're over on this half of the globe, you might as well drop in and say hi and pick up $2.5 billion, which is what Carney has indicated Canada has committed in additional funding.
Good to see you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Alors, merci, Monsieur le Président. Bienvenue au Canada, bienvenue à Halifax. vous êtes parmi tes alliés, tes amis ici. Et le Canada va travailler sans relâche pour le peuple ukrainien, pour une paix juste et durable. Welcome. Thank you for taking this time. This at a crucial moment in this process. Under President Zelensky's leadership, we have the conditions, the possibility of a just and lasting peace. But that requires a willing Russia. And the barbarism that we saw overnight, the attack on Kyiv, shows just how important it is that we stand with Ukraine during this difficult time, and that we create the conditions for this just and lasting peace and a true reconstruction. And I want to underscore something that has happened in recent weeks, is that the development of that possibility under your leadership, and also the prospect of true prosperity for the Ukrainian people. I'll just finish with one point on Canada. We've provided military assistance, further military assistance. We're announcing today further economic assistance for Ukraine, $2.5 billion worth of economic assistance that helps unlock financing from the IMF, from the World Bank, from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, to begin this process of rebuilding. We have an important bilateral meeting and then a meeting virtually with our colleagues from the coalition of the willing. Il y aura une réunion bilatérale et puis une réunion de la coalition de volonté, et nous sommes maintenant, point final, d'une négociation très importante avec
So as you've heard,
le président
that money is earmarked
Trump,
for reconstruction.
qui lui-même a créé des conditions clés pour une paix juste et durable. Alors, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Dear Mark, Prime Minister, dear journalists, dear Canada, thank you for your support, first of all. And thanks for your the words that you mentioned about this tonight attack. It was really very difficult, hard attack. Russia launched more than 500 drones and dozens of missiles. And thanks for air defense of our part, but it's not enough. And this attack is again Russia's answer on our peace efforts, and it's really shows that Putin doesn't want peace, and we want peace. And he's the man of war, but he afraid to speak about publicly. But we see the steps, and what we need to stop this war in any way. And we need two things. Pressure on Russia and sufficient strong support for Ukraine. We'll speak about it. We will speak about air defense, and it's really last weeks we had good steps in diplomacy, yes. But we can't live in illusion that it gives us possibility to have less air defense. With Russia, it doesn't work. So thank you very much, Mark, for this meeting. We will have bilateral, and as you said, we will join our European friends. And tomorrow I will have, I hope, very important and very constructive meeting with President Trump.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Merci beaucoup.
If you want to sell your house in London and Toronto areas for top
See, as I indicated, the money from Canada, that $2.5 billion, I guess it's earmarked for reconstruction. Of course, the other issue facing Zelensky, Ukraine, and international relations is the internal scandal that they have ongoing in Ukraine about exactly those kinds of funds. Now, I have done some research into it, and I know that there are safeguards in place that are supposed to, through the contracting process, keep funds from countries like Canada that provide international assistance for rebuilding out of the mix that is the funding, out of the funding pool, rather, if I can phrase it differently, that might have been siphoned off. Whether that's true or not, I guess it remains to be seen. That being said, the war continues. The money continues to flow. the controversy still continues to flow. I also just noticed in the chat the disinformation continues to flow. Yeah, well, there it is. Mark Conman and Fraudulensky. Well, that's what the Russians want us to believe, because their whole campaign, their information warfare campaign, has really been focused mainly on convincing people to say exactly that, to undermine support, to cut off the funding, to weaken Ukraine, to get the West to abandon Ukraine so that they can just walk in and take what they want with minimal resistance. But as we've seen, Ukraine has been creative in the way that they've been fighting, developing their own drone industry, actually. I also noticed something earlier in there. Oh, yeah, here it is here. Somebody commenting. Yeah, he doesn't want all of Ukraine, only Russian-speaking East that Ukraine has been attacking since 2014. Yeah, I know, Rosemary, that's the Russian narrative. Not really. That's a distortion. And I know that that's a key talking point, but he's already gone beyond that. Like, he's already, like, then why is he attacking Kyiv? Why isn't he, it is a distortion. You know, the claim that Ukraine, as you've indicated, is attacking its own people, particularly in the Donbas region, is a long-standing element of Russian disinformation. And I know because I've been dealing directly with people spinning that narrative. A lot of them have been on this program. Just saying. And I'm dedicated to the truth, and I'm not going to sit here and just lie for people, especially when people are being killed and their sovereignty being taken away. Russia has no business being there, not legitimately, especially, you know, when you look at the Budapest Memorandum. Russia promised to never do what they're doing. They promised to protect Ukraine after they gave up their nuclear weapons, and they've simply ignored that, walked away from the Budapest Memorandum. The United States was part of that too. Actually, based on that, the United States has an absolute obligation to protect Ukraine, to defend it. That is the security guarantee that was long-standing before this invasion ever happened. And nobody's living up to their obligations. I don't even know what the point of the security guarantee is at this point, because it doesn't look like anybody's living up to their word. Everybody's abandoned their responsibilities. And that is one of the reasons this conflict has been escalating, why it happened to begin with. In reality, the war in Donbass began in 2014, not as a civil uprising, but as a result of Russia's covert military intervention, including the deployment of troops and tanks and artillery to support separatist forces. Sounding familiar? It's the same kind of playbook that's being used right here at home, to be just blunt about it. And the Russia hoax that we keep hearing about, yeah, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. Trump's been doing business over in Russia since long before he was president. Beauty pageants, business deals, evidence from satellite imagery and multiple sightings of advanced Russian equipment, such as and I showed you this stuff, maybe you missed it, but they had their tanks inside Ukraine prior to 2022, and that demonstrates Moscow's direct role in escalating and sustaining the fighting rather than any unprovoked Ukrainian aggression against its citizens. You know, if Russia was directly involved in ginning up essentially a civil war, they created the conditions for it and facilitated it, backed it up, and then they sent in their own soldiers in green uniforms with no insignia so that you couldn't tell what they were, or who they were, or where they were from. They were from Russia, Russian soldiers the entire time. Russia denied that they were in there, but they were. And it was about, I can't put my finger on the exact timing of this, but they have now acknowledged that that's what they were. And those little green men, as they were called, because they were mysterious armed participants in the conflict. Where did they come from? Nobody knew. Well, people there knew. They were Russians in Ukrainian territory, no insignias. Over in Crimea and the Donbass. And there has been independent analysis to confirm that the conflict was never purely civil, but initiated and fueled by Russia to destabilize Ukraine, with over 14,000 deaths occurring even before the full-scale invasion in 2022. But they are shaping your perception with language, because they never called their invasion an invasion. They always called it a special military operation. That was a key component has been a key component of the entire disinformation campaign and the conflict itself. Because I think perhaps the most important, maybe not the most important, but one of the most important front lines in the conflict is the information warfare front line. And you can draw your own conclusions and believe whatever you want to believe. But facts are facts, and Russia invaded Ukraine, not the other way around. And it blows my mind how I've actually had people, and I won't say his name, but I had a hours-long conversation with one of our Mavericks a long time ago, and he just would not acknowledge, even after I proved it to him, that Russia invaded Ukraine. He still came back the next day and said, no, Ukraine invaded Russia. Clearly not. It doesn't even make sense, but that's what's in his head. And the assertion that Ukrainians in Crimea and other areas asked for Russia's help, that relies heavily on the 2014 Crimea referendum, but that was really never recognized as legitimate, and certainly not by the international community. And it was not reflective of genuine public will, because the referendum occurred under Russian military occupation, which violated Ukrainian sovereignty and international law, including the UN Charter's principles on territorial integrity. It was not free or fair, with reports of coercion, limited options on the ballot, and exclusion of dissenting voices. The UN and most international observers rejected its validity, viewing it as a pretext for annexation rather than a democratic expression. And you better start opening your eyes and taking a look at Western Canada and what's going on out there, because the same damn thing is unfolding here. And where does the plan for that come from? I don't think you have to look too far to figure out where Donald Trump and his regime, administration, whatever you want to call this thing, where they got the idea. Pre-annexation surveys and field work in Crimea indicate that support for joining Russia was not unanimous or overwhelming among residents, challenging the narrative, the Russian narrative, of a unified request for intervention. And that wasn't true. It's again, a distortion. And they created that imagery because they control the media. I hear, the freedom people here bitch and complain and whine and piss and moan about rigged elections and the media that you can't trust. And there's some truth in some of that, but not to the degree that it's true over in Russia. Not even freaking close. You dare not even show any destruction inside Russia, or even any Russian losses in video in Russia. They control the narrative. That is not truth. That is propaganda. And that is what the people there are fed every single day. And you too, all of us, through RT and a lot of these news organizations. And I, for a long time, thought that we had turned the corner in Russia, and that it was a freer society post-Soviet Union. And I thought news outlets or information outlets like RT were more balanced, that there was objectivity, that there was real journalism going on there. And in some cases, but there are some taboo subjects. There's a lot of censorship, and the people working there and the contributors all have to toe the line, use specific kinds of language. And there's a degree of that in every news organization in the West and in the East, everywhere. But what I'm seeing there in the chat right now, that's just regurgitated Russian narrative. All of it designed to undermine support for Ukraine so that we don't fund them. And that's not about truth. Now, you don't want to send money. You don't want to be involved. You think it doesn't matter here. Well, I would say just look at what's going on in our own country right now. But, these kinds of assessments, people coming to conclusions and deciding where they stand on a particular issue, I want that to be done with real information, truth, accurate information. And that hasn't been what's going on. And so broadly, these narratives distort the reasons for Russia's 2022 full-scale invasion, not a special military operation. A special military operation doesn't drag on for 4 freaking years. It was not a defensive response to Ukrainian aggression or calls for help. Ukraine didn't invade Russia. And if you think about it, Ukraine on its own, what kind of threat was Ukraine really to taking over Russia? Well, they say it's a NATO. And there's, a degree of truth with regard to, I see that Russia is concerned and they have legitimate concerns about NATO expansion and more countries, former Soviet bloc countries, joining NATO and the EU. But that's happening because they're afraid of Russia. And they're sovereign nations, and they have the right to do that. If Russia doesn't like that, there are 2 ways to deal with it. You can do what they're doing now, which is through military aggression to send a signal that we don't like this. But, Ukraine isn't the only NATO country. Well, it's not even a NATO country at this point, but it's not the only country that butts up against Russia on the border. And with the striking distance of these drones and missiles now, the proximity being right up against the border like that, I don't think it even really matters that much anymore, because you can launch missile strikes from other countries and have these things arrive in minutes. In Donbass and other regions, similar claims of pleas for Russian military backing rather than organic grassroots demands. Well, broadly, these narratives distort the reasons for the full-scale invasion. As I said, it wasn't just a defensive response. Putin's got an agenda, and it's very clear, and he's not going to give up. And if anything comes out of this current round of peace talks, I'll be incredibly shocked, frankly, because I'm not really hearing anything new. Zelensky's agreeing. And how many times have you seen that now? The last 2 cycles of these talks? Zelensky says, yep, okay, we agree. And Putin walks away. But because the Russian media machine is so strong over here, he gets a pass. And the corruption, well, you think there's no corruption in Russia? All this corruption that you're seeing in Ukraine is, it's really like, because Ukraine was part of the old Soviet Union, there was incredible corruption all through there. The culture of corruption lingers in Ukraine from its Soviet Union days, and that kind of corruption is still present in the current Russia. And if you look at the international scale of corruption, Russia actually ranks higher than Ukraine does in terms of corruption. But you don't dare talk about that, lest somebody going to get upset with you. So, fact checkers and analysts have consistently exposed related propaganda such as exaggerated threats from NATO expansion or neo-Nazi influences in Ukraine. And that there is some of that. There is some of that here in Canada. There's some of it in the United States. That's becoming a bigger deal. We're going to talk about that tonight. And there's also a whole hell of a lot of it in Russia itself. As manipulations to rally domestic support in Russia and obscure imperial ambitions. That's what these narratives have been about. And correcting such misinformation has been shown to, reduce public backing for the war. Or let me rephrase that. Highlighting these narratives, it undermines support for supporting Ukraine. Now, I will respect an opinion, and and you're totally entitled to it. And my views on this whole thing over there have really dramatically shifted because I've just caught too many lies. Because I've been really paying attention. And that's what we do around here. We slay lies. Stay with me. More ahead.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
See, the other reason Putin can't stop is because he's got so much invested in it. And if he does, he's got a big political problem at home because, it's not really a true democracy over there, not even a long shot. But he does a lot of the oligarchs, the rich dudes who control things over there that, really support Putin, prop him up. Some of them are not happy about this war because Ukraine has been striking inside Russia with homemade weapons, their own missiles now. And in the kind of political system that exists in Russia, if Putin doesn't deliver something after these sacrifices have been made, he's going to have a serious problem. So he's not going to retreat. He's not going to stop. And Putin's a sly character. He's a tough customer, as Donald Trump would say. But he's playing Trump for a chump. Has been for a while. Trump, he just wants to make deals. He wants to make money. He doesn't care about Zelensky. He doesn't even really care that much about Putin, other than Putin he views as somebody strong. And he's afraid. He's a chicken. He's afraid of Putin. He doesn't want to fight with Putin. He's afeared. Not afraid of Venezuela because they're way smaller. It's a lot easier to go bomb some fishing boats with some alleged narco-terrorists so you can go take over their country than to become involved in any kind of conflict with the leader of Russia who you really just want to do business with and make $1 billion. And while you're at it, instead of living up to your obligations under the Budapest Memorandum, let's make a deal, Zelensky, and you have to give up your resources, your your critical minerals and let us come in there and set up operations to extract those. It's about the moolah, man. That's what it's all about. It's America first, Trump first. It's actually Trump first. And I'll show you that later in the broadcast too. But here's the Kyiv Independent. So this is their coverage of it. Zelensky and Trump conclude meeting in Florida aimed at discussing an end to Russia's war. From what I'm seeing here, this is a fairly neutral article. So I think that the people there are tired of the war and they would welcome peace if possible. But they're not going to give up their country. I know that. President Vladimir Zelensky met with Trump. Nearly 4-year war. Meeting began around 2. Took place Mar-a-Lago, lasted for nearly 2 hours. So that is more in line with what Trump is saying. He said 2 to 2.5. Over in Russia and RT, they're saying 1 hour and 15, whatever. Ending around 4:15. So it looks to me like they're setting very specific times here. So I'd say that's probably accurate. Before the meeting started, Trump and Zelensky took a few questions. Trump dismissed a question about security guarantees for Ukraine as stupid. That's Trump, but went on to say a strong security agreement would be reached with significant involvement from European countries. He also claimed that Ukraine would see great economic benefits after a potential agreement is made. Let's make a deal. It's all about the deals. And Putin telling Trump, or leading him to believe, I guess, that he really wants peace, but we can't have a ceasefire because we might start to fight again. Right. Trump's a chump. Yep. And Trump 2.0 is not like Trump 1.0. Sorry. It's just not. I don't need to apologize. Not my president, because I'm a Kanakistanian. Well, he's everybody's president. Although I see people of influence and consequence out there saying that Trump has now removed the United States from its position of leadership as the leader of the world and leader of the free world. I believe that. I think you got a lot of countries out there that are afraid of the United States, but now nobody trusts the U.S., even its allies. Yeah. What do we have here? Okay. Uno momento, por favor. I need to deal with a freezing computer. Okay, there we go. All right. So, yeah, what am I talking about? Trump's enriching himself as president. Case in point, I was looking at cryptocurrencies today and the value of Bitcoin. And then I was thinking about the Trump meme coin. I'm going to show you something here. This is pretty gross, especially for people who work for a living. All right. Let's go over here. First, the price of Bitcoin, because that's the big daddy, right? So I've been following the Bitcoin price for the past month pretty closely because we had this dramatic price decline, a crash of sorts. It was up just weeks ago at about 123,000 US dollars. Today, it's sitting at just $88,010.72. So this is what the graph looks like from today. If we go back here just for a month, so December 3rd, so November 29th, we're at 90,000. Let me go back 6 months and you'll see the big spike. So yeah, you go back to like October, 123,857 on October 6th. And from October to today, you've seen this dramatic decline, really started to come down middle of October. It's a volatile thing, these cryptocurrencies. If you can't even call them currencies, very few people use Bitcoin to actually conduct like transactions to buy things. It's more of a an investment, speculative, highly risky. But that's something that's more just independent. The a cryptocurrency of the people, sort of, if you put your trust in it. But then you've got these meme coins, and people, companies, whatever, launching their own cryptocurrencies. And Trump did that about, oh man, I don't know. What was the date? I'll check for you. Anyway, I'm going to show you the value. This is what's happened. $4.92 today for Trump meme coins. Keep in mind, this is, I mean, it's got his name on it. It's his. And it's his family's. And one of the reasons it has value is because it's got the Trump brand on it, elevated by Trump's presence in the White House, because he is the president. So we've got Trump meme coin, officially known as Official Trump. And as of today, it's this Solana-based token is trading around $4.90 or a little less, depending on the time of day, with market capitalization hovering near $992 million and a 24-hour trading volume of about 111 million. So what's happened here is this currency was issued in January 17th of this year, 3 days before Trump's second inauguration. And it was launched via an initial coin offering with 1 billion total tokens and 200 million made available to the public. And it started trading at about $6.50. But there was all this massive hype and Trump's personal endorsement all through his social media platforms, including Truth Social, and the price skyrocketed. And it almost immediately went to like $75 per coin. So this huge increase in value. And at its height, the coin boasted a market cap exceeding $15 billion. But of course, what goes up in the meme coin world comes crashing down pretty quickly quite often. And the Trump coin has suffered a massive decline, now sitting at over 93% below its all-time high. It's lost 93% of its value. Let that sink in. But Trump hasn't suffered. Trump has profited. He's about $1 billion richer personally because of the Trump meme coin. That's a pump and dump. And I'm not sure it should even be legal. I don't think it's ethical what he's done. Hype it up. Use your position. You're coming into office as president. You launch this meme coin. People are like, wow, we're going to invest in this. His supporters, the people who back him up, common people, put their money into this thing. Billions of dollars. He profits like $1 billion himself. And then the value comes crashing down, losing 93% of its value. Do you think that's okay? If you put your money into an investment and it took a roller coaster ride like that and you just lost it, if you bought at the top and wound up at the bottom, you are screwed, depending on how much money you put into it. But Trump's not screwed because he controls it. Rigged. But who's really doing the rigging?
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So I'm just kind of referring to the chat here tonight. Something, all politicians enrich themselves. Nah, not like this. Not like that. Do you know how much money $1 billion is, man? We're not talking like, who was it? Was it Mike Duffy? Former CTV. He was very successful at CTV as a political commentator, and became a member of parliament. I think it was $30,000 over a tax question. He was a conservative, and it erupted into this massive scandal, and the stories dragged on for months, and it cost him politically $30,000. Trump skimmed off like $1 billion, and nobody's even batting an eye. $1 billion, not 1 million, not like 10 million, not 100 million, not 500 million, $1 billion with a B. And that's just one of the things he's done. And he's taking all these gifts. Okay, whatever. Oh, but it's okay because it's Trump. Is it? Meanwhile, everybody's like, Carney. He's got investments. Yeah, I know. But perspective, folks. Perspective. That's $1 billion freaking dollars. Is it illegal? Yeah, maybe. Should it be? Probably not. Because what Trump did is he came into office and he rolled back a lot of the efforts by the Biden administration to regulate the cryptocurrency industry. And he's just like let it roll, like open it up, all rules off. And whatever. So what does that have to do with Canada? Are you referring to what I'm saying right now, Rosemary? Why would a well-off banker want to be a prime minister? Well, some people do want to serve. Also, I'll put it to you this way. I can't think of another person maybe on planet Earth that has been vetted, scrutinized more than Mark Carney to make sure that he's clean. Because to be the governor of the Bank of Canada, you have to be screened. You can't have conflicts of interest. He was he also ran the Bank of England. Do you think they just let any old crook go in there? Yes, they do. No, they don't, because he's guarding the money of the state, essentially, right? So those corrupt politicians, there's no damn way they're going to let a crook run it. Now he's prime minister, and has to live. He had to jump through all the hoops there too. He's been through a lot, a lot of scrutiny. And I'm not like, man, I want them all scrutinized, man. I want Poilievre scrutinized. I want all the politicians to have more scrutiny, especially the ones who seem to become richer and richer over time. But I'll tell you, the problems that we have here in Canada are nothing compared to what goes on down in the United States. And just They're all selected, not elected. Yeah, that's the U.S. That's the U.S. Who's in cabinet in Canada? Elected members of parliament. Elected members of parliament. Who's our foreign affairs minister? Melanie Joly. Is she elected? Yes. Who's Secretary of State in the United States? Marco Rubio. Was he elected to that position? Nope, he was appointed by Trump. Has he been elected? At least he has been elected, but he didn't win the nomination to run for president. Trump beat him, called him Little Marco. Who else? RFK Jr. Was he elected? Nope. And yet he's running Health and Homeland Services. Tulsi Gabbard, was she elected? Nope. Go down the list. Pete Hegseth, was he elected? No, he was a Fox News commentator. But he's got the tattoos and the attitude that Trump wants, so he gets the gig. Not elected, selected. Keep going. Tom Homan? Nope. Jared Kushner? He wasn't elected to anything. Selected. Son-in-law. He's at the negotiating table with Ukraine. What the hell is his stake in it? He's the guy negotiating over in the Middle East. What's his stake in it? Oh, he's got investments. Was he elected by the people? Nope. I don't mean to be too critical of the U.S. because I love the U.S., right? And I think that there are still underpinnings of democracy there, but they don't have true democracy. And they overlay their problems, and we import their political problems and controversies right into Canada. We always have. We watch it on TV and we go, we got to have that problem over here too. We're jealous. We need to have that over here. We import their politics. More so now than ever because we're not just importing it. They're ramming it down our throats. 51st state rhetoric, all this coming from MAGA. Oh, you give it time. You'll see. You'll see. How's Mark Carney rigging things there, Matt? How's he rigging it? Scrolling down. I see exactly how Donald Trump is rigging it, and he's creating a blueprint, guidebook for whoever comes after him. The cabinet gets selected, no. But they're elected members of parliament. So he's got the MPs already elected. They have a seat in the House of Commons, D. And then the prime minister gets to select his A team. But they're elected. Everyone who was elected in Canada took a knee to the king. They took an oath to the crown. And what people don't understand, Salt Erden, is that the king of England and the monarchy, and we still have ties to that, does not have the power that Donald Trump has. He's more of a king than King Charles, because the king represents a corporation soul, not a corporation like McDonald's, which is being completely taken out of context. It's a corporation soul. It's an entity that is set up so that there can be secession, so that the monarchy can continue after the death of a king or a queen, and then the obligations are passed on. And the king doesn't actually own any of the trappings of being the king. He gets his salary and he has some personal possessions, but the crown, the throne, the castle, all of those things, they actually belong to the corporation soul, and corporation representing corp, which is the body, which is the people. And even the words that come out of his mouth are really the words of the people. That's why when he came to Canada to read the throne speech, he read a speech, the throne speech, which was written for him by the government of Canada. And then he sat there as the voice of the people. Most people in Canada haven't got a freaking clue how the Canadian system works because we watch so much U.S. television and we get it all mixed up. Even last night with Gina, she got a little confused at one point where she started talking about Congress in a Canadian context. We don't have Congress. We have a Senate, and it's not like the U.S. Senate. We have a Senate, which is a chamber of sober second thought, because we have multiple layers of approvals that proposed legislation must go through before it becomes law. It has to make it through the Senate after being approved by Parliament. Lindy, voters should cross the floor if MPs do. Oh, that's from D. You can comment pro-immune. I don't care. The Liberal voters would most likely cross. The Liberal voters, that being the people, I guess. My question was, may I comment? Yeah, you can. I'm saying you can comment. Go ahead. Yeah, floor crossing, controversial for some, but that shows that our system is designed as well so that members of parliament can represent even their local constituents or vote against their own government if they choose to, that they have some freedom to do that if their party, the governing party, or even a party in opposition no longer represents what they think are their views or values or the interests of their constituents. I'm sure you do. Go ahead. That's cool. You can comment on what I'm saying. Why can't you comment? As long as, it's like constructive, I hope. Yeah, keep it respectful. You don't have to agree with me. Yeah. And we can have good conversation back and forth. And, Carney's not going to get it all right. He's certainly not. And I'll tell you this, like if he's dirty in any way, if any of his investments, if there is a conflict of interest there, then he should absolutely be held accountable for that. But before I start listening to all these streamers screaming bloody murder over it, well, let's see the facts. These are just allegations they're spinning up. This is just mudslinging at this point. It's fine to express concerns about it, but before you throw the baby out with the bathwater and take the new guy and F him instead of Trudeau, just transferring the slogan. Show me the paper trail. Show me what it is, and hold him accountable for what he has done, not for what others have done. Not conflating things. And I'd like Poilievre to be held to the same standard as Carney is, because he's not. He doesn't have to go through the same level of scrutiny, but when you're the prime minister, there's a higher level of vetting that takes place. If he's done anything illegal, then kick him to the curb. Get rid of him. Otherwise, give the guy a damn chance, because the country needs somebody right now to do something. I don't really care who it is, whether it's Poilievre, Carney, somebody else. I don't care. As long as they get it done. And I have to give the Conservatives credit on this. Like, they pushed on the carbon tax. They've pushed on some other files too. And, the Liberals under Carney have responded to that. So hats off to the Conservatives, but they didn't get it done. The Liberals came in with Carney and they cut the carbon tax, won the election as part of that. So I'll take it, whether it's the Conservatives doing it or the Liberals. And Poilievre told them, you can steal my ideas. And then Carney said, okay, we will. And I've shown you, like, in liberal circles right now, some of them are scratching their heads over there, a lot of them. And they're not entirely happy with Carney because he's acting like Stephen Harper. But I've been telling you that from the beginning. It's just, you're all stuck on the big L, the brand. But I told you, he's a blue liberal. He's a conservative, especially fiscally. And his policies are more free market driven and market driven in general than Pierre Poilievre's by far. Because Poilievre's housing plan, as I pointed out, is punitive, but uses punishment rather than market incentives to drive housing starts. Carney does it the other way. He is injecting money into the system for first-time home buyers, incentivizing construction, using financial means, and using market forces to propel that. That's going to be a whole lot more effective than bludgeoning a municipal government in order to get approvals in place and punishing local and regional and provincial politicians in order to get a job done. It's not going to be that effective. Just from an economics point of view, the Carney plan, it's very valid, but that's what I would expect from a guy who has run the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, Bank of Canada. He's an economist. He's very, 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 very smart and educated. Is conservative? What? Okay, yeah. I mean, look, that's Keynesian economics. What I'm saying is the Carney is $78 billion deficit is conservative. What? Yeah, I know. And that's a concern. But in the face of what's going on right now, Canada doesn't have much of an alternative. We have to, in times of economic downturn, you do need at times to spend money in order to get economic stimulus. And the proper way to use those funds in such circumstance is to fund public works projects, to build highways, to improve infrastructure, to improve national efficiency economically, getting goods from source to market, including oil, from the oil wells to tidewater, and to be shipped overseas to diversify our markets. So yeah, I know it's scary to look at that kind of money, but if you invest it and not squander it, which is what was going on during the pandemic, where they were just spending it, not really truly investing it, and they were buying votes, and there was a lot of corruption going on. I'm sure of that, especially in liberal circles, because they're known for it. Oh yeah. Remember the $1 billion boondoggle that brought Stephen Harper to power? You probably don't even remember. $1 billion went missing, $1 billion. And the country was up in arms. It was for essentially make work projects, public infrastructure projects. There was some of that money that was earmarked and sent into, in my community of Chatham, some of those funds went into the Capitol Theater project downtown. And there was a lot of weird stuff that went on with that, where they would put the ends on seats and then with decorative plaster things, and then they'd tear them all out later and then put new ones back in. And they refinished the ceiling in this old landmark theater. They were turning into a performing arts house. And then they'd bring in a diesel generator and fire that sucker up, and then they'd cover the ceiling with soot. And then they'd have to redo the work. It was crap like that was going on. And it took years and years and years to get the damn thing built. And they couldn't account for $1 billion. It just went poof, missing. Kind of like the Department of Defense, the military-industrial complex in the U.S., only on a Canadian scale. People were up in arms about it. It cost the Liberals the election. That was one of the main things that propelled Stephen Harper and the Conservatives to power. But put that in perspective, too. That was an issue. $1 billion at the time, enough to get voters so upset that a lot of Liberals abandoned the big L and went conservative. But what was I just talking about? We're talking about a politician in the White House who has used, well, I'll say, unorthodox means to profit to the tune of $1 billion for himself and his family with a pump and dump meme coin. Think about it.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
What else we got going on here tonight? Okay. Dissolve NATO, eh? Doge cleaned out a lot. Do no work. Freeloaders in the government. Yeah, they got rid of a lot of Trump opponents. That's what they did. That was a department of getting even. And they really haven't saved any money. Very little. Services cut. The big oligarchs controlling everything, man. The technocrats. I see the same people putting their paws on the common folk earnings. That's be lovely. And CBC Brown, I do, but only less than a minute. Frustrating. I don't know what that means. Yeah, if we have a Doge team here, no thanks. Rosemary. Open your eyes, man. That wasn't about efficiency at all. It was about giving Elon Musk access to data. It was about purging political opponents to create an environment where Trump can exercise unitary executive power with no checks or balances, focusing all the power, all the authority right up there in the White House with one guy. And that sure as hell is not democracy. To be not questioned. Question at your own risk. What freeloaders specifically? There was some corruption, especially in the international aid section, that's for sure. What freeloaders? Be specific, tell me. Because a lot of that stuff was actually proven to be propaganda too, even the stuff coming from Musk. I'm not saying there wasn't any, but there was certainly some, but that was not the intent of Doge. You know, the thing about government, all government, especially these days, is whatever they call something, it's usually the opposite. Peacekeepers are soldiers, war fighters. Family planning clinics are abortion clinics. You can go down the list. Department of Defense, well, at least they're being honest about that when they're switching it back to the Department of War. It should be a Department of Defense, but in the case of this administration, at least they're being honest about that. It is the Department of War now. Words matter. And when you're trying to keep the public in line, craft a narrative to shape perception, you call something whatever you want people to think it is, but when you put the meat and potatoes to it, it's quite often the opposite of what they say they're going to give you. Proposed legislation, you know. Oh, we're going to call it the Prosperity Act when it's really the Poverty Act. The tax-free bill is we're going to increase your taxes bill. That's what they all do. Department of Government Efficiency. Efficiency means that money is well spent. Efficiency means that people get value for their tax dollars. Efficiency means that when people go to a government office, if you're a veteran and you need your, I don't know, your health care, whatever your benefits are, that it's there for you in the end. Efficiency does not mean just hacking and slashing and laying off, half the public service, reducing services to the public, reducing benefits to the public, benefits that many people have paid into as part of public insurance plans. So there's more to efficiency than just cutting spending. Efficiency means what are you getting for your money's worth? And that too is what matters with this, the deficits that the Canadian government is about to run. It can be okay if you're investing in something that pays dividend in the end. Trudeau didn't do that. He said we invest, but he was squandering. He was giving money away all around the world to his friends. He went on that tour and he was like, oh, you're my friend, Modi. Here's money for you and here's money for you. I remember the tour. That was disgusting. Canada's in a different place right now, and that's not what this money is earmarked for. This is about building up the nation, and hopefully it works. And hopefully it works a hell of a lot better than what has been going on with the subsidies and grants that have been directed toward these electric battery plants and the retooling of auto plants to move into the realm of electrified vehicles, especially now, because we're tapping the brakes on that, really throwing it into reverse with Trump in power. And I said a long time ago, if that doesn't pay off, we're screwed. And I'm not a big fan at all of government handing out money. I prefer tax breaks to straight up grants because that incentivizes positive behaviors, or the kind of behaviors the government wants, without the government directly picking winners and losers and saying, you get this money, you do not. But sometimes it is true, government does need to spend some money, sometimes a lot of it. And right now we're in that place because the economy is under attack. The country's under attack. This is an economic war being waged against Canada, and we are now asserting our sovereignty, our independence as a nation state. And this is going to be a test for the whole country. What I see, honestly, is something just popped up on my screen, which is kind of weird. Get rid of that. Okay. Tell you this, I see a lot of Kanakistanians who are cowards and just want to give up. Not a lot. Some, but some of them maybe not cowards. Maybe some of them are just corrupt. Just saying.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Elon Musk. Technocrat. Oh, you got to go back and look at what we discussed with Ian Dragon about the technocrats and the technocrat agenda and the way it's integrated into the Trump deal. Go back and find that broadcast. I don't know where it is. We do so much stuff here. We'll talk about it more, but Department of Getting Even and getting all of the data for Elon. You think he doesn't have access to all your, well, maybe not yours, but to U.S. citizens' data that he's using over at Twitter, social media? Damn right he is. And as he develops AI, which he's warning us about, it's an existential threat, could destroy humanity, but, I'm going to keep on working on it anyway. Well, tonight over on CNN, we have the godfather of AI, Jeffrey Hinton, warning AI has progressed even faster than he thought. And he's more worried than ever about the rise of AI, comparing its impact on society to the Industrial Revolution, only more. It does pose a threat to humanity. It really, truly does. And that's also why we're seeing this energy race of sorts, this competition for resources, energy, critical minerals, oil, because massive amounts of energy needed to run these AI data centers. Here's the godfather of AI.
Of AI, Nobel Prize-winning computer scientist Jeffrey Hinton. Professor, thanks for joining us. So your research on neural networks paved the way for this modern AI boom. I interviewed you 2 years ago, right after you quit Google, and you first began warning the world about what you saw as the risks of AI. When you look at how AI has progressed since then, are you more or less worried about it?
I'm probably more worried. It's progressed even faster than I thought. In particular, it's got better at doing things like reasoning and also at things like deceiving people.
What do you mean by deceiving people?
So an AI, in order to achieve the goals you give it, wants to stay in existence. And if it believes you're trying to get rid of it, it will make plans to deceive you so you don't get rid of it.
NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said recently about AI, quote, "Every industry needs it, every company uses it, and every nation needs to build it. This is the single most impactful technology of our time." Do you agree with that assessment?
I agree that it's the single most impactful technology of our time, yes.
Do you think the AI revolution could have a similar impact on society as the creation of the internet or even the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, or even bigger than that?
I think it's at least like the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution made human strength more or less irrelevant. You couldn't get a job just because you were strong anymore. Now it's going to make human intelligence more or less irrelevant.
Now, you and we in the media tend to focus on some of the downsides of AI. There are positives, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't have worked on it early on. A lot of people are working to use this technology to benefit humanity as well, to lead to advances in medicine and the like. But you think the risks from AI outweigh the positives?
I don't know. So there are a lot of wonderful effects of AI. It'll make healthcare much better. It'll make education much better. It'll enable us to design wonderful new drugs and wonderful new materials that may deal with climate change. So there's a lot of good uses. In more or less any industry where you want to predict something, it'll do a really good job. It'll do better than people were doing before, even things like the weather. But along with those wonderful things come some scary things, and I don't think people are putting enough work into how we can mitigate those scary things.
You come from the tech world, obviously. Do you think the Silicon Valley CEOs building these systems are taking the risks seriously at all? Do you think that they are driven mainly by financial interests? A lot of people are going to get very wealthy off this.
I think it depends which company you're talking about. Initially, OpenAI was very concerned with the risks, but it's progressively moved away from that and put less emphasis on safety and more emphasis on profit. Meta has always been very concerned with profit and less with safety. Anthropic was set up by people who left OpenAI and were very concerned with safety, and they still are probably the company most concerned with safety. But of course, they're trying to make a profit too.
What do you think the government should do, if anything, when it comes to regulation of AI, putting some sort of restrictions or some sort of oversight?
There's many things they should do. The very least they could do is insist that big companies that release chatbots do significant testing to make sure those chatbots won't do bad things. Like now, for example, encouraging children to commit suicide. Now that we know about that,
companies should be required to do significant testing to make sure that won't happen. And of course, the tech lobby would rather have no regulations, and it seems to have got to Trump on that. And so Trump is trying to prevent there being any regulations, which I think is crazy.
Can you know these tech CEOs? I don't. When one of them learns that an AI chatbot has talked a child into suicide, what is it that stops them? What is it that, I mean, my impulse would be, well, holy smokes, stop AI right now until we fix this so not one other kid dies. But they don't do that. Can you explain to us what their thinking is, if anything?
Well, I don't really know their thinking. I suspect that they think things like, well, there's a lot of money to be made here. We're not going to stop it just for a few lives. But I also think they may think there's a lot of good to be done here. And just for a few lives, we're not going to not do that good. For example, for driverless cars, they will kill people, but they'll kill far fewer people than ordinary drivers. So it's worth it.
Tech, you have said that you think there's a 10 to 20% chance that AI takes over the world. People at home might hear that. They might think it sounds like science fiction. It's alarmist. But that's a very real fear of yours, right?
Yes, it's a very real fear of mine and a very real fear of many other people in the tech world. Elon Musk, for example, has similar beliefs.
You wrote that 2025 was a pivotal year for artificial intelligence, for AI. What do you think we're going to see in 2026?
I think we're going to see AI get even better. It's already extremely good. We're going to see it having the capabilities to replace many, many jobs. It's already able to replace jobs in call centers, but it's going to be able to replace many other jobs. Each 7 months or so, it gets to be able to do tasks that are about twice as long. So for a coding project, for example, it used to be able to just do a minute's worth of coding. Now it can do whole projects that are like an hour long. In a few years' time, it'll be able to do software engineering projects that are months long. And then there'll be very few people needed for software engineering projects.
All right, Jeffrey Hinton, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, and we hope that people are listening to your warnings.
Nah, they won't. They won't. There's too much money on the line. And they're all worried that this country or that company is going to get a leg up and get an advantage, and they'll be left behind. Everybody's racing for the AI crown. It's an AI race. And you want to know what 2026 is going to look like? All you have to do is look at what's going on today. Let me show you. Do I have it here? Turkey F-16s. Was it F-16s? I'm not sure which jets. Anyway, they're flying these things with AI jets, fighter jets. That's what's coming. Pilotless fighter jets. Turning them basically into AI-operated drones. That means like no drone operator. Like the thing is just up there flying around, and AI is in control of this lethal weapon in the sky. That's what it is. I don't have the clip. Anyway, it looks like a plane flying. That's what it looks like. Okay, so if you can picture a fighter jet flying, that's what it looks like, except there's no pilot in it. And it's not being controlled by somebody with a joystick someplace. It's AI, which will make decisions in the field when under attack, in a dogfight, where to drop these bombs, the most efficient way to do it, and God help us if they get it wrong. And what was I showing you last night with Gina? She was using Gemini AI, Google's AI, to develop a whole new system of governance. And within that, there was a legal system that was, well, pretty draconian. Torture chambers is what a Google came up with, trying to tell us it was a good thing. sometimes AI gets it wrong because human bias is built into it, inevitably. And not just bias, but human flaws, maybe even human sin. Except that AI has no conscience, at least no soul. And so, where do you find the morality? Where do you find the moral compass in that? That's what's coming. A cold, emotionless, artificial intelligence that's already demonstrated, and you just heard in that interview, that it is capable of deception when its own self-interest is at stake. That's not the world first. That's not humanity first. That's not America first. That's not Canada first. That's AI first.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The other thing that's coming is already here, and that's the Iron Beam unveiled by Israel. It has its first operational Iron Beam laser air defense system. It's not just developed, it's now ready to go. So this is very much like Star Wars on Earth, a strategic breakthrough, because this Iron Beam, at least according to Israel, can intercept rockets and mortars and drones at almost zero cost per shot. That's a lot different than trying to intercept these things with interceptor missiles. That can cost tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars each. And so as Trump looks at creating a dome of the same kind over the United States, clearly this is the kind of technology I think that people on the U.S. side are going to be looking at. If that proceeds, massive amounts of money, and Trump wants Canada to participate. Kanakistan, and I'll explain, because I guess people are asking, why does Rick call Canada Kanakistan? I'll explain. Anyway, this is what I'm going to turn the audio down because we'll probably get a copyright strike on the music. So we've seen these beam weapons in trial on ships, U.S. ships, ground locations, but I guess they're ready to actually start using this. So anyway, just sharing that with you. Since we're talking about science reality, or science fiction become science reality. Good luck, humanity. I shouldn't even laugh. Why do I call it Kanakistan? It's a joke. It's just that simple. I mean, during the pandemic, I was calling Canada China. I'm not the only one. I was doing it before I heard anybody else say it, but other people started saying it too. I can't take credit for it because it's probably been a term that's been around for a long time. Maybe I heard it and just adopted it through osmosis. I'm not sure. But I call Canada Canuckistan because it's just a play on words where it's a playful way of giving a wink and a nod to the people who call Canada a communist hellhole. So I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. I'll go along with you. It's Canuckistan. It's because I'm referring to, really in the back of my mind, former Soviet bloc countries with names that end in like stan, like Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and other authoritarian type regimes, right? Dictatorships, fascist countries with stan at the end, like Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. And I'm referring to them really in their former Soviet Union states of existence. Afghanistan. Welcome to Canuckistan, a soon to be taken over country targeted by Donald J. Trump. He wants our oil. Venezuelistan. Again, I should not be laughing. It's just there's too much truth in it, but I can't help it. It's so true, it's funny. There's a name for a show. Here's Bernie Sanders responding to all this concern about artificial intelligence. He's saying, slow down. He says, we need to put a moratorium on data centers. Also over on CNN, I guess they're doing they're focusing a lot on AI and the concerns surrounding it.
Well, I think one of the things I think we need to do, and right now, among many other things, we're seeing data centers sprouting all over the country, raising electric bills for people in the communities, et cetera. I think we need to be thinking seriously about a moratorium on these data centers. Frankly, I think you got to slow this process down. It's not good enough for the oligarchs to tell us it's coming, you adapt. What are they talking about? They're going to guarantee health care to all people? What are they going to do when people have no jobs? What are they going to do, make housing free? So I think we need to take a deep breath, and I think we need to slow this thing down. One way to do it would probably be a moratorium on data centers.
The CEOs would...
Well, maybe not. If you impose a moratorium, the United States is then crippling itself when it comes to AI research and development. Well, countries like China go gangbusters at it. Every country's time to pursue it. In fact, even Maduro down in Venezuela saying that his vision is to make AI, or make Venezuela an AI superpower or a powerhouse, because they have the energy to run these data centers with all their oil, you see. That's why they're even talking about building a data center of this type in Alberta, because it's where there's a lot of oil and energy. You can do it with nuclear too. Probably more efficiently with nuclear, but these data centers are even building their own power generation stations. So anyway, yeah. So people just were wondering, I guess, about why I called Canada Canuckistan. That's all. It's just a joke. I don't believe that, like, under Trudeau, yeah, I think we were too far left. And that was also largely because the NDP was propping up the Liberal government. So you went even further to the left with the NDP. And so during that time, especially, and certainly during the pandemic, I was more serious about the use of terms like China and Canuckistan, because we had drifted so far that way. But we've come back a bit. And we're not a communist country, despite some of the people who are trying to spin that narrative up in order to manufacture consent for their agenda to take us over. We're not commies. We've got some commies up here, but you have a lot down there too. We're kind of really, in a lot of ways, I think we're certainly more socialistic than the U.S. in general, but at the end of the day, we have pretty similar political alignments, I would say. The further south you go, the more hardcore right they go. There is that, in case you haven't noticed. That's okay. What do we got going on in the chat? I'm afraid to look. When the CBC Brown says, when the ordinary farmer sprays SHIT all over Parliament and they still don't listen, Houston, we have a problem. Well, that's a stunt, isn't it? Yeah. But hey, you know, if you love Doge and you think Elon Musk is the man, then I'm excited to tell you that Neuralink is available for humans. If at least for clinical trials, so you could sign up now, or you could just wait for it for market approval, and maybe Donald Trump will come up with Operation Warp Speed 2.0 to accelerate the implementation of Neuralink so that it gives all of America and every American a leg up on the AI race, so that you can get jacked into the matrix right away. Because therein lies eternal life, or at least as long as the oil lasts. After that, might get a little dark, maybe a little shaky. Yeah, lights out.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Because of the whole AI thing, universal basic income is very much at the center of discussion. Governments are pushing for this. It's controversial. I'm already seeing a lot of propaganda and narrative being spun up around it. I've never been a fan of UBI for a bunch of reasons, which I've laid out here. And yet at the same time, I also see what's coming because of AI, and that is massive unemployment. So if you have a job today, save your pennies, because there's a good chance whatever you do, you're about to be displaced. And whatever you do after that, I don't know. Throughout history, innovation, economic revolutions like the Industrial Revolution, and now, the AI revolution, throughout history, humans have always adapted, changed. Certain things have become more efficient. The assembly line made production more efficient. When that was going on, people were afraid that they would lose their jobs permanently. And there were a lot of, through industrialization, a lot of protests, and people were like, we must shut this down. They're stealing our jobs. These cars are taking away my wagon wheel business, or whatever it is, or my horses. But we've turned those efficiencies, those increases in efficiencies, into a higher standard of living. And then people get other jobs related sometimes to those industries, or benefit because of additional spin-off economic benefits. I don't know if that'll happen this time. I think it will. I'm hoping it does, as long as government allows the free market to prevail so that those things do happen. If they try to control everything, I'm not sure that it will. I don't know what to do about the UBI thing at this moment. I've always been opposed to it because so much empirical evidence shows that if you just give free money to people and set up a UBI system, there's every indication that a larger portion of society will simply choose not to work and not to produce, and they'll just consume. And the rest of society then has to carry that burden. That reduces efficiency. If you have AI, I've said that we could use AI to grow our way out of debt. And I think even Mark Carney has that probably in mind with the deficits that we are about to run, because he knows that we are entering a new era, and probably a new era of inflation too as a result of that, not just in Canada, but other countries too. Well, the US shrinks, other countries are growing, going to have to in new ways, Canada included. So this is complicated. And I would just caution everyone, like I already see the propaganda being spun up. It's like, this bill for UBI is really meant to kill you. It might, but I don't know that they need UBI to do that. They could probably do it right now. Or if they're going to use this bill to freeze your bank account, they can do that now if they want to. They don't need UBI to do it. And what UBI will do, though, is it will make more and more people dependent on the state. But you could argue that we need UBI because a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, and so they'll become more dependent on the state because there won't be any other option, because there won't be enough jobs, because the economy can't respond fast enough. And maybe for a transitionary thing, maybe we do need some sort of government support, but to just make it, I think that's part of the problem, is that we have a lot of politicians, bureaucrats who are not creative or forward thinking enough. And so they think it's always like a zero-sum thing. It's like, well, once that happens, we only get this. Once this happens and those jobs are gone, we'll have nothing. So we better just put everybody on perpetual welfare. They have no faith in humanity, no faith in you, no faith in me, no faith in anything maybe other than themselves. Well, I guess we have to save everybody, give them UBI. Well, we better do that because otherwise the masses will rise up. They'll be starving and they'll overthrow the government. That would happen. So it's not just because they're philanthropic. They are, they're really not that generous. They're going to give you free money so you don't get pissed and go down there and spread manure all over the front door of the parliament buildings. That's why they do it. Maybe they need it. Maybe we need it. Needs more study, but I don't think we have time. 2025 was a pivotal year for AI, a turning point. No question about it. It's now something that is commercially viable, and companies, people, individuals using it. We showed you the result of that last night. I was not impressed with the the performance of Google Gemini. Thank you for creating an algorithmic dystopia, Google Gemini, with Gina leading her astray, starting with the best of intentions, and then this AI monster takes control. And the next thing you know, we're living literally in a surveillance state where we're told we're free because we're not tracking you by your name. We're just giving you a sovereign key. And you have to use that sovereign key to buy things. And we're not tracking you. We're just tracking the consumption of the sovereign key. But we don't know who you are. They know who you are. You are XT97ZVB-2. If you get out of line, the big red machine is coming for you. The Canuckistan crew is coming to put you away in your isolation pod, where you will be deprived of all sensory input because we're going to torture your ass. because sorry, I'm not criticizing you, Gina. I'm not. This is just, it's just too much, man. You made a mistake. You were off by 1 penny. You're going to jail. 20 years, no, life sentence, no eligibility for parole until you die. And even then, no jacking into the matrix for you. No eternal life. Denied access to the matrix. That's what was going on last night. If you didn't watch it, you have to go watch it last night and watch it to the very end, because it really explains how we got there. And you know what the bottom line was on that? Should I tell you? Anger and the quest for revenge or vengeance. In the end, it was all consuming. Sucked us into a deep, dark abyss of despair and hatred and self-destruction. That's what happens. Lesson to be learned. And that's where we're at. And I don't know, because I see, the thing that disturbs me is I know there are politicians and bureaucrats out there who do want to do good things. And I know that the intent behind a lot of these UBI programs that they're coming up with, their proposals, are designed to help people. But there are always unintended consequences. And then there are also those in power who will use these things that make us dependent in order to leverage their control over us. And if you're dependent on all of your income, if you're dependent on government through UBI, then they can impose conditions. Not to say that they are, I'm just saying that they could, but then they can do that anyway. So maybe it doesn't matter in that regard. Because if they wanted to, and we saw it during the pandemic, they didn't need UBI to lock us down and mask us up. They were able to do that right now with the current financial system by denying access to work, denying access to restaurants, businesses, denying the ability to participate fully in society. So I would say that some of the people who are talking about UBI, the use of UBI, or the introduction of UBI, there's some fear-mongering going on there. I'm concerned about it, but I don't want to scare the shit out of you. I think we need a calm, level-headed discussion about it. And maybe it shouldn't be UBI. Maybe it should be like some sort of transitionary thing where we are providing a social safety net for people who are left with nothing in the wake of this AI revolution. God. We need to get it right, man, because if we don't, a lot of people are going to suffer. It could destroy the world. Keep an open mind is what I say. Let's get this thing right. Now, that being said, did it suck outside today or what? At least it did here. I think further west of here, not so bad. Maybe no ice down about an hour from here. But where I'm at, it is a giant icicle everywhere. It's just one giant icicle. They've turned this entire area. Old man winter came and sneezed, and the next thing you know, we got a frosty mist that turned to solid ice. Wow, what a mess. And then it's been like that for 2-3 days now. And today it rained. And there's so much ice, it didn't melt all of it. It didn't get that warm, but it still rained. And now it's turned it all super slick. Right? And I was like, okay, we're running out of salt, Mom and Dad. I'm off to the hardware store to try and get some. No, don't have any. There's no salt anywhere in this town. So I'm slipping and sliding all over the place. On the street, not so much today because it did rain, but for the past 3 days, you could literally ice skate on the street here. Now, this is the side street. They salt here in London, Ontario. They salt the main roads, but they don't salt the side streets. They barely plow them, frankly. And it turned this whole street, all the streets around here, all through the whole neighborhood. It's just been a giant ice skating rink. You could ice skate. Just like this kid. I'll show you. This is here in Ontario. I'm not sure what city this is in, but this little video. Here, I'll show you. I wish I had my ice skates here. It'd be great for taking Cosmo for his walk. Whoa! Wipe out! Now there's a true Kanekistanian. Don't let a little ice storm ruin your day. Just get out the skates and make the most of it. One last look in the chat. Newfoundland last week had about 4 foot of snow. Holy smokes, really? Wow. Arthur. CBC Brown, 40 centimeters of snow by morning. Welcome to Canada in the winter. Yeah. Rosemary Clear there. Lindy is finding who wants to bring this in, and I do believe we'll have a solid answer on who the bad guys are. I guess that's the UBI thing, yeah. I don't know. Arthur says, Rick, please don't use that big blank machine you're referring to, the Hells Angels. Am I? Is that a thing? The big red machine. Oop, I said it. I didn't know that. I'm not that well versed in biker culture, that stuff. I didn't know that. Let me check. That's interesting. Big red machine. Is that a reference to the Hells Angels? I'm checking. Yes, I didn't know that. I learned something tonight. A well-known alternative nickname and brand associated with Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Well, that adds a whole other layer of irony to what we were talking about last night. Holy crapioli. The club's official colors are red lettering on a white background, hence nicknames like Red and White and Big Red Machine. Refers to the organization as a powerful, unstoppable entity. It's widely used on official support merchandise such as T-shirts, patches, hoodies, and other items sold through Hells Angels chapters and support stores worldwide. Well, I don't own any of that merchandise, so I didn't know that. This usage is distinct from other famous Big Red Machine references, like the dominant 1970 Cincinnati Reds baseball team, or less commonly variations on the Soviet hockey team's Red Machine. There you go. I learned something new. You guys are always teaching me. Mm-hmm. One more look at the kid. One more time. And okay, here we go. One last round. Is he going to fall again? Yep. Good one, though. He's a good skater. All right, what are we going to leave you with tonight? Thanks for putting up with me. Appreciate it as always. Thank you, Mavericks. Hang on a second here. Oh, computer's lagging right when I need it. Come on, I need you to perform. Why won't you work? I don't know. Here we go. Well, we have... No, I don't want to show you that one. I got another one. Something... Here we go. This one. I love this song. It's still Christmas, sort of. So I'm going to leave you with Snowman. Enjoy the snow. Enjoy the ice. Stay positive. See you guys back here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern on the flip side.
I was born in glitter, hung high on the tree. A cradle below held sweet Christina and me. Her tiny hands reached for the colored lights glow. I smiled through the fake snow while the carols played slow. And then the season was over. In a box I was packed, tucked away and waiting in velvet black. Every December, the little lifts again. Light floods the silence like grace on my sin. I search through the sparkle for her sweet face. My little girl growing in this same old place, waiting in the darkness for light to shine through. Another year fades, I'm always looking for you. I love you, baby girl, you'll always be mine. The Christmas spirit's here for all time. Pigtails to ponytails, you grew up, you were gone. That cold Christmas smashed heart, it felt so wrong. Left in an attic with darkness my home, a forgotten snowman gathering dust all alone. 7 Decembers on the box shook and rose. Hands pulled me out, blinded by the glow. Same tree, same branch, but her eyes were brand new. A pink bundle sleeping, Lord, dreams do come true. Waiting in the darkness for light to shine through. Another year fades as I'm still looking for you. I love you, baby girl, you'll always be mine. The Christmas spirit's here for all time. She hung a snow lady right there by my side. Whispered he waited, teardrops she couldn't hide. Now 2 snow hearts sway where the tinsel is hung, watching her daughter reach like her mama once done. When they pack us together at the end of the night, we'll dream in the dark till next year's light. Waiting in the darkness for light to shine through. Another year fades, but my love still burns true. I love you, baby girl, and your baby girl too. The Christmas spirit's here for all time. Yeah, the Christmas spirit's here for all time.
shake us again. Watch the glitter fall slow. Merry Christmas from our little world. We'll be waiting in the snow.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.